Good morning. This is Dom. Back to a trading session. I said I would record more frequent uh, videos, and of course, I haven't for 2 weeks because I've been super busy and traveling, and I haven't. But and I probably won't be able to do another one until next week at some point. But anyway, trying to do it at uh, a higher cadence than I used to. Anyways, this is the fifth, sixth even of Feb. It's 10 o'clock. So it's fairly late. I'm already in a trade. It was a small, but little test trade here, which I like to do sometime in the morning, just a small contract. And really, I've been looking at this week, which was quite interesting, with the Monday having um, a huge gap. Um, we had a massive gap between Friday's close and Monday's opening due to the US Trump making an announcement of putting tariffs into different parts of Canada and Mexico and Europe, and there was some obviously initial reaction to the market, and it created a huge opening gap. Uh, and then he went further down a little bit, and therefore it was uh, it was this day here, and was showing at Sunday, but really being the day, Monday day, and you can see that we basically had this gap um, between the close here and the opening here somewhere. So quite a large gap. Talking about 103.80 to 10, whatever it was, 102.75, and then it went further down, created an unfinished business here, all the way down to 102.30, roughly speaking. And then we obviously see that same uh, obviously lowest point. So, it also shows on the weekly and then a monthly volume profile, as I always compare them side by side, bearing in mind that, I'm trying to have different perspective or different angle, but looking at the same thing in a different way and slicing it down in a different way, so that, we keep in mind that the market doesn't really care too much about what's our time frame, and it's fairly irrelevant. And that's why order flow to me makes sense, because it doesn't really care about this. It cares about market structure. It cares about supply and demand, i.e., buyers and sellers, and that's what makes the market, move back and forth. So obviously that political event had an impact, but then it retraced and corrected, so to speak, fairly quickly, and it has been going up ever since. I was clearly Monday. I was Tuesday. Still a very much of an up day, as you can tell, and then the same again today so far. Now, here really we have two options. We have the option that, that sort of low volume here, that low volume here, and I'm talking about that's last week's sessions, right? This is daily sessions, um, and the other one here. Uh, Basically shows some low volume um, in previous sessions, and this is something where we could well be heading into, perhaps all the way to, we could imagine 105.20 or so. So that's obviously an option. Now the market has sort of priced in the announcement, and there were further announcements following that. So that's sort of being priced in, and corrections have happened. So this morning I tried a little, as I said, test small contract trade, but so far it's not going anywhere. But the point being here that this is the first option, obviously. So what if it goes up? What if buyers take control? Where do we go potentially? And I'm saying this, it could well stop somewhere here, by the way. It doesn't have to go all the way, of course. Um, and it could just stop here at 104.55 and then something else happened and it goes back down, and it's never it's not a necessary binary here. Okay. So you can see here, in fact, we are which is good, building up, accumulating volume on the higher side of that's the point of control as far as the volume is concerned. And this is, we are accumulating volume here, which means that the market is acknowledging that value is going higher and is on the higher side of the volume, hasn't pushed yet. There are some announcements today, some ISM service PMI, some ADP non-farm employment change, things that will affect the market, but affect the dollar more precisely, and which in turn will affect this euro-dollar futures that we're trading and looking at. But there's clearly an option to go up north somewhere. It could always, as I said, go to some point, reverse, and then something else happen, and then the rest will or could be done tomorrow or Friday or not, or reverse, and but I want to keep in mind all the time all the other potential available, sorry, not other, but all the available potential scenarios here. If we were to reverse at some point, when that's something again that we need to look and see and look at it in a live at the moment from an order flow perspective, and this is again why I like to look at the order flow, because it happens, at the time and as things unfold, and I think that's very important. I can't see any, obviously there's not a huge amount of volume here nor here, and you could always dream that it's going back up and retracing all the way here and all the way back to 102.92 and and so on. And yes, it's possible. Okay. Sometimes when you look at a daily like that, I mentioned looking at a weekly and monthly, and that's why I like to, and I'm bringing this from another screen here. We're looking at a weekly. Just because I can't record all my screens with my screen recorder for whatever reason. But anyway, you can see here this looking at the same thing. That would mean we'd need to retrace quite a bit. And then you can see here there's the unfinished business that I mentioned. And then everything being possible, and it's not necessarily for today, but I'm just saying as a looking at things, future thing that could happen, it could go all the way down to this magnet, which is the unfinished business on a weekly basis, obviously, and daily, clearly, because it's lowest, but and we can go back to the lowest days of the that we can see here on a weekly of the euro dollar, and again same thing. Clearly, we're just at the beginning of the month, but you can see we've got a very thin monthly profile so far with this unfinished business, with a single print, and going back all the lowest days of the euro for quite a while. Anyway, that's the thing. When we look at this, we can see it looks, hey, we could easily go back up to 105, and hey, we could easily go back down to below 1. But of course, this is monthly and this is huge. So that's something I like to put in a corner and look at, corner of the eyes. It's on another screen, but again, it's good to have those different time scale and frame perspective and say, hey, this it's there, it exists, and then of course I tend to be looking at what happens now, potentially later today, as things unfold, as the story is being told every day, and every day being different, but obviously it was the same principle. So that's where I am today. I would be inclined to think, and that's a danger, that it could easily be, more likely to go back up at this stage, but obviously that could be completely wrong. One thing which I like to do is when I look at a full potential here and going back again, that could be something for maybe it's going to take 10 days, not necessarily today, but I look at 105.22. I like in that case to bring up other tools which I look at. Looking at Bookmap here, and I like to look at that's just a DOM in a graphical representation, but I like to see if we've got high volume nodes, and I can see not high volume nodes, it's a completely wrong way to put it, high liquidity limit orders one way or another, and I like to have that view, which will show me, you can see here and here clearly, there's a lot of liquidity resting orders, right? So one here, if I go back up, you can see that on, trying to see where it is, but it's on 105.35. We've got 950 contracts, which could be completely, irrelevant in the sense that it might just disappear as the market moves up, or a couple of points before we get there, or whatever. But it could equally be somebody who's looking at, or several, as it is. It's not only one supply of liquidity here and resting orders, but it could be, many other people looking at the same thing I'm looking at here, and looking at the bigger picture and saying, hey, we think it's going to go back up at some point again. And if it does, then when I'm there, I want to get out of my buying position. So that could indicate that there are a lot of buyers, which is, when looking at order flow, is interesting. And because there are a lot of buyers, then they're all in buying position, and they are looking to, looking to take profit, exit the position up there. So again, something to keep in mind. Doesn't mean it will happen, doesn't mean it's right, but it means it's here. And again, it could be fake, it could be, disappearing, it could be many things, but that's the sort of thing that we want to look at with the tools that we have, rather than speculating. Now, when we get to the nearer there, you see a white bar somewhere in the on each level, on the bid and ask side. See, there's white bars that indicate that there is here, for example, there's a resting orders 90 contract on the bid, and means the white bar in the middle being there's a large chunk of it, or at least there's a chunk of it which is coming from one provider. When there is nothing, such as here, 68.58, it's accumulation of contracts generating 58 to 68 contracts. Who wants to be selling at that level? But here, whenever you see white bar, it means it's coming from one, one provider, so to speak. Sorry, lack of a better word. Anyway, that's something I also like to be looking at if there are those levels, and obviously look at the order flow here, with the different. We can see there's a. Trying to see if there was an imbalance specifically on the book, which I'm not showing here. I was looking to see if there was a quick way to look at it, but there's no. I'm not in there. I can't display it here at the moment. But certainly, it doesn't. When I look at the actual order book here, I'm looking at all the levels of liquidity. Trying to see if there's an imbalance at the moment. Again, it's not worth very much, to be quite honest, because of the relationship of the limit orders and the buying and the and the market orders, which we discussed in previous videos, and one is nothing without the other one. but I always like to not to take that too much into account until we get to the case where, to the point where market orders are going to go and consume those limit orders. The fact that they're there means many things, and anything and nothing really, because they could disappear, they could be added up, they could, Anyway, I was just trying to see if I could not show all the, not show all the, and I'm not going to spend a whole video trying to find it, but not to show all the levels of liquidity here, but of resting orders, limit orders, but but more reduce that to the first 5 and look at the total and see if there was an imbalance. That's where I was trying to get at, but it doesn't really matter anyway. So that's where we are. Aside from that, quite frankly, this is what we've got, what I have. I'm looking at various on a hourly as well as half an hour, and again, that's just something to look at. It could be anything; it doesn't really matter. But I'm just looking at other daily charts or intraday charts. Sorry, here's the 30 minutes. What I'm interested here is look at the a bunch of things. I'm looking at the those bars where you see blue bars. They are engulfing bars, and following an engulfing bar, there's always a movement, which is not necessarily in the same direction as the direction of the engulfing bar itself, but which usually will generate a movement, and that's very reliable. You just don't know where is the movement, and you don't just know how long for, but it does. It tends to create some move, and I'm looking at Murray math here, which again works fairly well as well if you know how to use it. But that's a whole session in itself. But again, that's more something I look at once I'm in a trade, more than trying to define what I want to do, where I position myself or not. And by the way, having said all that, I don't really, decision could be yesterday. The decision was that I didn't want to do anything for various reasons. It could be because you're not on top form. It could be because you have no idea. It could be because you feel it's too much of a gamble. It could be because whatever good reasons you can have. So deciding not to do anything and staying out is also a good. It's also a very valid option in the scenario. It's not only I'm not going to be with the buyers or the sellers. It could be I'm not going to do anything. And in a way, I'm just saying all this because yesterday was a bit of a strange day. If you look at it in a bit more details, again, that gives a perspective of things. So you could see we opened and went down pretty much. When we got to some point, probably at the close of the markets in Asia, we had a huge, not huge, but we had we closed down big time. And then from the the time Europe and UK opened, we went back up, and then we had a little dip, and then it was flat for quite a while, and quite a while today as well. A little bit deep down, and then that's sort of going back up again. So it's if effectively when you look at it this way, I mean, if you look at, and it's better seen obviously on the weekly because it's just one line, but if you look at it this way, effectively we've been going up, right? It's clear, but it's not a straight line, obviously. We go back down and finish business, go back up and down, and a big up and down and up and down and up and down, and so I think that's the nature of the market this week because of the news, because of various things. But my point is, some days you just don't know, you're not sure, you don't feel comfortable, and when I'm like that, which was the case yesterday, I didn't do anything at all. So we'll see. I might just pause this and see resume it when we'll see if indeed it has gone as I want it to go. Doesn't mean it will, but if it validates that small trade, which again was more of a test trade because I wanted to, I wanted to have a feel for it, and for no real reason, to be honest. But other than that, what I was just explaining, I'll pause it and we'll see how it unfolds later on. It's 10:15, so let's see what it looks like.